Welcome back to a very late edition of Microphone Monday, and I apologize for my absence for those of you who enjoy this video series. I am professional voiceover artist John Bailey, and I have just been swamped with work, which is a good problem to have. If you do this full-time like I do, you can work from home. This is in my home studio here. I put this thing together myself based on tips and things that I found online, believe it or not. A lot of the stuff you can find answers to online. You don't have to go asking voice actors, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? I get that question all the time. What do I need? You need a decent microphone. You can get a condenser mic, and this pop filter was like 15 bucks. You get a decent microphone, even at someplace like Best Buy. You can get one between $100 and $200. They're fairly affordable for the type microphone, because you can get on up to the $10,000, $15,000 microphones. I found my original microphone stand at a pawn shop for 15 bucks. You can get you something like a mixer, or you can plug it straight in. If it's USB, you can plug it straight into your laptop. Make sure you get a laptop with low fan noise, unless you want to deal with the desktop. It just takes up a lot more space. But something that can edit fairly well. And Audacity is a free program that you can use. A lot of professionals use Pro Tools, or they use something like Sound Booth or Adobe Audition. But Audacity, I have used Audacity the majority of my career, and it's free. And it works. The stuff that you hear me on television, the stuff you hear me on the new video game coming in October, I recorded some of that on Audacity. And nobody can tell the difference. Of course, you're going to have to spend a few bucks on cables. If you want to go all out, you can get an Inbox Mini, and it comes with Pro Tools. It can cost you a little bit, and you can spend, $500 to $10,000 putting together a soundproof studio, or buying one of those portable booths that's actually on wheels, the big stands, not those little boxes you take with you to travel. You really just need a quiet place to record, even if that means you have to throw a blanket up over your head. That's the way I started. Or have a local studio that you can audition at, but they may charge you. I know that was one place that charged like $135 an hour, but if you're just doing something short, and it may be a $1,000 job, so it may pay for itself. It's a gamble. You can't just start off in the business with an agent. Agents don't just wait around for you to say, okay, I'm going to be a voice actor. Okay, let me sign you. That's not how it works. A lot of the time you have to get noticed first, or you have to have not just a good demo, not just a great demo, but an excellent demo. And you have to keep your demos current. You're doing a demo based on things that are currently out right now. As far as cartoon voices, back in the day, cartoon voices were all the rage. That was every single cartoon. But as the years have progressed, the audience for cartoons has expanded from little bitty kids to little kids all the way up to adults. So they have gone more and more and more towards realistic voices. So the first voice that you want to put on a demo is your own. Doing something in character, because the acting is the most important part of voice acting. Everybody always assumes, oh, I've got this cool voice, I should do this job. That's not necessarily true. You can have a cool voice, but if you can't act, you're kind of limited on what you can do. So you have to be able to read the copy. My manager found somebody before he found me. He found somebody waiting tables in LA, and he had an amazing voice, but they came and read him, and he couldn't read a script. He just couldn't do it. It was all very dry, and I've actually gotten a job. The written voice description was the worst voiceover ever. So I did a voiceover that was really bad, and I mispronounced the words, and I even threw a the from Dumb and Dumber, and they loved it. So I got a job because I was the best at being bad. But you want to have a stellar demo, and you want to have something that's current. You give a little bit longer on your demo for animation, but 1 minute is all you need to do for a commercial demo. You can record that stuff yourself, or you can hire somebody to cut you a demo. There's a lot of great guys out there that can do that. David Soboleff does demo work. Chuck Duran does demo work. There's a lot of people who do it, but they may charge you for quite more than you have. A lot of people start off on their own. I made some rookie mistakes, like some people have asked me before, oh, I can do all these impressions of characters. Yes, doing impressions is awesome, and it can be very entertaining at parties or among your friends, but doing a demo of impressions probably won't get you any work. Main reason being is because you're doing a copy of somebody else's character that they created. And yes, that's cool that you can do that if you can sound just like them, but nobody's going to hire you to be that person when they could hire that person, especially when he's already done the job. There is some room. Impressions are important, because let's face it, Bob Bergen would not have got the job as Porky Pig if he'd not done the impression and figured out the whole how to do Porky Pig's voice based on Mel Blanc's original voice, because Mel Blanc passed away. Same thing with Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings replaced 2 voice actors doing the voices of Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. So there are people out there who do impressions of somebody else's character, but the circumstances are different in that case. There is room for impressions and voiceovers. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. There are celebrity impressionist work out there for like radio commercials. I've booked at least 4 or 5 jobs doing celebrity impressions or character impressions for commercials. I had to do Kermit the Frog, which Kermit is one of the ones I stay away from, because Kermit's one of those people that, or one of those characters, I should say, that's universal. Everybody knows who he is, and everybody assumes they can do the voice. Everybody thinks they can do Yoda. Everybody thinks they can do Kermit. Even my mom thinks she can do Yoda. So, but there's also there's certain celebrities that I try to stay away from, unless it's funny, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I do a version of Arnold Schwarzenegger because it's not based on Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's actually based on somebody who does a funny impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Christopher Walken, again, it's just a funny voice to play around with if you can do it right and do it funny. But usually I stay away from people like Jack Nicholson because everybody thinks they can do him. John Wayne, everybody thinks they can do him. There's just a standard little group of these voices that everybody assumes that they can do, and they're 100% sure that they can do it better than you can. So I just don't do it at all, whether I can do it better than them or not. You wouldn't want to put something like that on your demo, unless it's from an actual job, you know, like somebody at CarMax hired you to sound like Billy Bob Thornton, which I did. I got the exact reference was Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade. So I did Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade, and that's what they hired me for. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it sounded like in the commercial. And apparently I was the best sounding out of the people who auditioned for it. And I ended up doing 2 characters. But there's also a market for doing impressions, so to speak. But it's not called impressions. It's called voice matching. There's a big difference between voice matching and doing impressions. Because everybody thinks when you do Chris Rock, everybody thinks you got to sound like this. But the other day, I had to voice match for Chris Rock, and it sounded very normal. It was like, is that what I got to say? You know, it was just something real simple, something basic, something that sounded like a normal voice. And when my booking agent then sent me the job, said, when I was listening to your voice, I was like, that's not Chris Rock. And then she said, I played it side by side. I was like, holy cow, that is Chris Rock. And the client actually loved it. So the reason why you want to be able to do good voice matching, and I've actually explained some tips on how to do good voice matching, because there's a group of work out there called ADR looping. And ADR looping is not just for movies. They also do ADR for movie trailers. And movie trailer ADR is a lot easier than ADR looping is for a movie. I don't know if anybody's ever stuck around in the credits long enough to see that ADR recording, or recordists or recording artists. There's a group of people who fill in for the original actors to fix a line. That's basically what it is. Don't ask me what ADR is, because there's a big controversy as to whether it stands for audio dialogue replacement or automatic dialogue replacement. I don't think it's automatic, because it's not automatic. You have to work really hard to match your mouth with the lips that are on the screen. But for movie trailers, most of the time so far that I've done it, all the lines I had to say, there was no person saying those lines. They just added them as voice. So all you had to do was sound like the original person in the trailer, and then they just threw the voice into the trailer. So it was either a narration or it was filling in for a line, like with Chris Hemsworth. I filled in for Chris Hemsworth on the 3 versions of the Snow White and the Huntsman trailer. And they had him saying in the movie, why didn't you tell me? But what they needed him to say was, why didn't you tell me who you are? It's a lot less expensive for them to hire somebody like me, as opposed to going and getting Mr. Expensive Chris Hemsworth just to say the words, who you are. So they had me voice match for it, and I did my best, and I ended up getting hired for that. So there is a group of work out there for people who are really good at voice matching. And if you want to know more about voice matching, I suggest you go to Patrick Fraley, who was the original voice of Krang, also an excellent voiceover coach. He does a whole series on it. He does workshops on how to do, they do ADR looping workshops. He does a whole thing on the things that you look for. And I've done a little bit in my videos on what you look for and what you listen for when you're trying to match a voice. So those are the basic things about the business. There's a lot of different areas of voiceover. A lot of people automatically assume cartoons when they hear voiceover or voice acting. But there's a lot of voice acting done in commercials, because most of the time when you listen to the radio, those aren't real people talking to each other about this product that they're about to buy. Those are actors. They're acting out parts that they auditioned for. And commercial is a whole lot bigger. Have you ever tried to count how many commercials you hear in one day if you don't fast forward them with your DVR? You hear tons. In one 30-minute show, you're probably going to hear about 15 to 20 commercials. And there's going to be voiceover in pretty much every one of those. And on the radio, you hear commercials all the time. There's a lot of commercial voiceover work out there, and they're more and more it's more and more general where a lot more people can do it because you're not limited on where you live. Used to be limited. You had to be in New York. You had to be in Los Angeles. Now all you need is a computer with a decent internet connection and a quiet place, and you're done. You can record through websites like Voice123 or Voices.com, Voice Bunny. There's tons of these different websites where you can submit auditions, and most of them are fairly affordable. So all you have to do is have you a demo, write down what you can do, and then you submit your demos or whatever. You pay them a small monthly fee. Some sites require 1 year up front, which is a little more expensive, but still, considering what you do, if you're booking work, it'll pay for itself in no time. But it's like $300 or so to do for 1 year of Voice123, or it's right around 30 or 40 bucks to do per month at Voices.com. And I did Voices.com for a long time back when I was non-union because it was just something I could do for some extra money on the side from home. I booked enough jobs to make enough money to pay for it, plus have some left over, and that's the way it should be. Your investment pays for itself. Next Monday, Michael Bell, the voice of Prowl, Swoop. He was the voice of Scrapper. Duke from G.I. Joe. He has been all over the place. He is a legend. He is one of the biggest voice actors in the past 30, 40 years. He's got one of those very distinct voices that you don't hear a lot of people doing impressions of Michael Bell because his voice is so unique, it's hard to do an impression of Michael Bell. So I'm going to be interviewing him, and coming up not too long after the interview with Michael Bell, we'll also be doing an interview with Jack Angel, who was Cyclonus, such a great voice, and Astro Train. He also did the voice of Wetsuit. So you guys stay tuned to Microphone Monday. I hope these tips helped, and you guys keep up the great work. Get out there and break a lip.